Hey everybody, it's Ted Gravelin with the TEDcast. I've started calling it the TEDcast now because I'm doing something that I haven't done in the past. I've been doing these videos for a long time, for many years, and I've been shifting them slowly over to my YouTube channel because I've been posting them on Facebook and different groups and stuff for years, and I'm slowly grabbing them and putting them on a YouTube channel, and I'm going to call it the TEDcast. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, then go ahead and click the button below and subscribe, assuming you're on YouTube. If you're watching it somewhere else, then go ahead on YouTube, search for me, Ted Gravelin, find the channel, subscribe below, and you can watch all the video content that I've done all in one place. I'm kind of moving it over there because it seems to be where people keep asking me to search for it. So today, what I want to talk about is just the different stages of an HVAC business and how it plateaus and what we do to get through the different plateaus and stuff like that. So I've done this same kind of graphic before, but I'm going to talk about it a slightly different way today. So we're going to talk about what it takes to get a company through the different areas of growth. So I've got a little thing here where you get like a one-person company, one truck chuck. A lot of us were there. I was at one point. And then you eventually end up with like 3 employees, and then you end up with like 10 employees, then you end up with like 30 employees. Actually, less than a couple of dozen companies in most groups probably end up, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know how many companies, but a very small percentage, like 1 or 2% of HVAC companies ever get above like 10 or 20 employees. So 30 plus is fairly rare. But the principles still apply as you go through the different stages of growth. And here's the things that you've got to do to go through the growth, and we'll lay them out in a broad spectrum, and I'll get a little more detailed in a second. So you got to do numbers, sales, marketing, hiring, and training. That's the things that the companies have to go through to get from a small company to a bigger company. Now, I know those are the big picture items, and those are the items that usually leave people stuck as owners. When the owner is stuck, it's because of those 5 things up there. So as he moves through each stage, that's where they're usually not, they get hung because maybe they've got their marketing, or maybe they got their numbers and their sales okay, but they can't figure out the marketing, so they can't grow. Or they sort of half-bake the sales and they're doing the marketing, and then by the time they get up trying to hire guys, their sales still were never really done right in the first place, so they're stuck. There's always some place where you're stuck. A lot of companies, believe it or not, get to a fairly big number and a fairly big size, and they still don't know their numbers, and they're not really good at profitability. This is where you see companies that, in my own market, I remember a large company, they were doing a ton of new construction because they didn't know their numbers, and they suddenly just went out of business. Sheriff locked the door one day because they didn't know their numbers, they weren't charging right, and they were running around with like 50 employees, but they weren't profitable because way back at the beginning they didn't know that. So ultimately, the way that I would usually work with clients, the way I'd use, we say we start with these things in order, but the other big picture item is to know which things are, what your goal as an owner is there's a bunch of daily things your business has to do every day. So I call it daily stuff. And I've just got some examples here. These are pretty common for almost every company that has to do these. Some companies will have a few extra things, but that's okay. These are just examples. So everybody's got to answer your phones every day. It's got to happen every day for your business to run. Answer your phones, run service calls, do sales. Somebody's got to sell something, right? We're going to install some stuff that we sold. We're going to do some admin stuff, taking care of the money coming in the books and dispatching customers and who's taking the money to the bank and who's ordering parts and stuff like that, admin stuff. Now, one truck company, owner's doing all that stuff. As soon as he gets a couple of employees, he starts to try to get rid of some of these things. He says, hey, I'm going to hire a service tech. So now he's not going to do service as much anymore. Going to get somebody else to do that. Then on the other side of the equation, we have owner stuff. Owner stuff is stuff that you don't expect employees to necessarily be responsible for, although they may help do it, but they're not going to be responsible for it. That's like hiring, training, the marketing strategy, and the strategies for things like that. Big picture planning and things like that. Like, should we grow to a new facility? Should we buy new trucks? How many guys are we going to need? What's our budget planning going to look like for next summer? That kind of thing, right? That's stuff that owners need to be doing. You don't really delegate that out. Although, as you get to a fairly large number, you may have a team that's helping you with that. But those are the things that you need to be doing as an owner. The whole goal for most companies should be to get rid of these things and don't do this stuff anymore, and move your responsibilities every day to doing this. You should be, as an owner, trying to move from here over to here. As the bigger your company gets, the more you have to do that. big mistakes I usually see companies making is a lot of times the owners are delegating the wrong things. Why are they doing that? Well, because they like the things that they know how to do. Hey, look, if you were a service tech and you started your company and you're pretty good at running service and sales and installs and stuff all by yourself, you're pretty good at it because you understand it. So you kind of like those jobs. The ones you don't like are like, figuring out your admin stuff and running a hiring program and training program and, marketing. You're like, I don't want to do that. So you want to say, I'm going to hire a marketing company and delegate that. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. At a certain size, you're going to have to do that. But you should understand how your marketing works so that you know if the company you're hiring is any good or not. Because if they're not doing a good job, you want to know it right away. Just like if you were to subcontract out your installs, and you didn't know how to do installs, you kind of have to take their word for it. Hey, boss, it took 9 hours to run a line set. Be like, look, I've been around the block a couple times. It don't take 9 hours to run a line set. Well, same thing with a marketing company. Hey, boss, we're doing this marketing. It costs $400 for every customer we brought in. You'd be going, it doesn't cost that much. I've done this myself. That's not correct. So you want to know what your numbers are, and you want to know how to do the marketing. You want to know how to do these things. So what we're trying to do when I'm working with people is move folks from this list, get rid of these things, get them onto this list. Now, how are you going to do it? You're eventually going to do it with hiring and training. That's the top 2-tier things that are over here. You're going to hire people to do this and train them to do it so that you don't have to do it anymore. So here's the rub. Every time you go up from one thing to another, you have to rebuild how your company works. So when you're all by yourself, you just do everything. By the time you have 3 employees, none of these things are happening the way they used to. By the time you have 3 employees, somebody else is selling, somebody else is doing the phones, or whatever you may have going on there. Where people get stuck is the owners are holding on to the lower level stuff. You're still got your foot like, hey, you know what? I like doing the sales. I kind of got rid of the dirty jobs of installs because that takes all day, and I hired some guys for that. That's nice, but I still like doing the sales. Okay, at some point you're going to run into a place where you can't handle it anymore. And you don't have a process in place for getting rid of that. So everything we talk about is how to get processes in place to have these things happen by themselves automatically so that you don't need to be involved every few minutes when you're doing it. So we do it in the order of numbers, sales, marketing, hiring, and training. And the reason why is because you want to get to hiring and training, but you can't get there unless you have the lower end stuff. You have to know your numbers. And there's so many companies out there that I talk to, and I talk to, several every week that are telling me things like, how much are you, I ask them questions like, how much are you charging? And they tell me, and they really don't have a good basis for how they decided that. Because my next question is usually, oh, you're charging this much per hour. How did you come up with that number? And they don't really have a mathematical reason why. You need to understand how those numbers work. That means setting your pricing properly for great profitability. It doesn't matter what your competitors are doing because they might be mathematical morons and doing it wrong. You need to be getting those numbers in place. And then the shocker is for a lot of companies, my gosh, my prices just went up. Right, because you were probably charging too little. Because one of the sales strategies out there is, hey, if I just charge lower than the other guy and give a lower bid, which I hate the word bid, then I will get the work. But the object of the game is not to get a lot of work. The object of the game is to make money. So you got to have a sales process, which does not mean, used car salesman crap or pressuring people or anything like that. But it does mean helping people get to yes very easily in a very smooth way so that you can duplicate it over and over and over again and not just getting lucky once in a while when you're having a good day. So you got to have a sales process in your company. Even if you're a one-truck company down here, you've got to be able to know your numbers, do sales, sell at prices that are going to make you profitable so that you can afford to do all these other things. Because the next thing is marketing. I got my sales nailed down. You give me 5 leads, I'll close 4 of them. Customers like me. My prices are good. I'm making money, etc. Now 5 leads isn't enough. Now I need marketing. So when I get to marketing, I've got to get to how to generate leads, and there's basically 2 kinds of marketing. There's direct marketing and branding campaign. For smaller companies, you can't do a branding campaign. You can't afford it because in most markets, now I can go into a whole long video and I've done it before on marketing, but you can't usually afford a branding campaign if you're a small company. So what does that mean? Branding is get your name out there. And next guy with 1 or 2 trucks that says, I'm gonna get my name out there, I'm gonna beat him up because he doesn't know how you do it. When you're a large company, at a certain dollar spend per period, per month or per quarter or whatever, a certain dollar spend, suddenly you hit the tipping point, you tip over, and it suddenly works great to do branding. But you got to have deep enough pockets. And again, at a small company with only a couple of trucks, you probably don't have enough yet. So you need to do direct marketing, meaning I send out offers, people respond directly, and they do business with us right now, not someday, months or years down the road. That's the basic of marketing, and again, I've done longer videos on that. You can go search for them in the YouTube channel. So you got to go to marketing. Then we get to hiring and training. What happens when you're a small company is you need to say, I need to hire some help. And so you try to go out and get a little bit lucky. And you can do that. You can go find a guy who's working for a competitor, who has 5 years experience and a clean driving record and all the things you're looking for, and he knows what he's doing and he's a good guy, and you can snag one, and you can snag a good service tech or snag an installer or whatever you want to do and kind of steal him from somebody else. That's one way to do it. The problem is going to come into when you start to get a little bit bigger. You're going to need more guys than that. And you can't rely on the idea that I can snag a guy. You might get 1 or 2 every year or so when you're a small company. Hey, I'm 1 year in business. I'm going to hire my first guy. I found a great guy. It's awesome. And then next year you need to find 3 more. Well, you're not going to get that lucky 3 times, 4 times in a row. Okay? You're going to have to learn how to do a hiring process that's happening ongoing all the time. And you're going to have a training process going on all the time. And when I say training, I don't necessarily mean tech training, although it can be that. I don't necessarily mean sales training. It can be that. It can be customer service training. It can be all kinds of things you need to be doing. But you need to be running a complete training program from top to bottom in your company. This is the part where most of us that were service techs that started a business get scared because we don't have training experience. We're not teachers. And this is the part where you get uncomfortable because you're comfortable with doing these things. Now you're moving over to these things. And when you talk to any of the owners of large companies, guys running 10, 20, 30, $40 million companies, they're thinking all day long about their training program. That's what they're doing. They're saying, hey, look, I only got one thing to do. I hire people and I train them to do all this other stuff I got to do every day. And then I don't do it because I got 10 installers. I'm not an installer anymore. But I hire them and I train them the way I want them to do it. So that's really the big scope of the thing here. So I'm pretty well known from these videos for helping people with the numbers and that kind of thing because it's the most basic building block we have to start with. And for all of my clients, we always start with the lowest thing first, even for large companies. The only reason why is because we don't want to have somebody get hung up. If they're at 3 trucks and you become a client, I don't want you to get to 7 or 8, 9, 10 trucks and go, oh crap, we missed doing the numbers back down here and now it's going to come back to bite us in the ass. We're going to check all the boxes going through all the things as we go and make sure the numbers are good, the sales process is solid, the marketing is solid, you understand how it's done, and you can hire a marketing company, you can hire a website company. You should probably do that. But again, if I'm hiring a website company, I want to be able to look at a website that they're showing me they do and go, man, their ad copy sucks. Why would I want those guys? They don't even know how to do ad copy. Because even if you don't know how to write good ad copy, you should know good ad copy when you see it. And somebody one time asked me the definition of copy, so I will define it. Ad copy is the words on the page. So here's an experiment to do, by the way. Take your website, pull up your website in one page, and pull up 3 of your competitors on another website. Just here's all the other pages. I want you to compare the pages, and I want you to do one thought exercise. If I took the logo and phone number and name off of mine and swapped it with the other guys, would it make any difference? If yours looks like theirs, it ain't good marketing. Because it's basically saying, hey, we do it too. Same thing, huh? We hope you like us better. Cross our fingers. That's not marketing. Marketing means I've got a message that's unique to my marketplace that customers want to do business with. And if you're saying the same thing everybody else is saying, then it's not good. And believe it or not, if they're using the same website company, you know what those guys do? They have a template, they plop a logo on the front of it, they charge you a few $1,000s, and we built you. Look at how good this website looks. It looks awesome. Well, of course, they made a good looking one, but it doesn't say anything unique or anything good. So again, back around to that. Beating a dead horse there. So ultimately, here's the key. You got to be able to figure out where you're at on the spectrum. Where are you at on this spectrum? Where are you at on this spectrum? And where are the holes? Plug the holes in the boat before the boat sinks, and move yourself from doing the daily stuff to the owner stuff, okay? Don't delegate the wrong things, and stop holding on to the lower level stuff. I know it feels comfortable to hold on to this. It feels comfortable to want to keep doing it. It's uncomfortable to learn something brand new for yourself, because remember, we're talking about training. Well, the training happens for you too. The training happens for the owner to learn new stuff and then teach stuff to people who don't know it. You have to be doing both of those things. So that's really the TEDcast for today. And again, click subscribe below, and we'll talk soon. If you want to talk to me about how I can help you, how we might work together, that's easy to do. Go to tedgravelin.com/booking. We can set up a time. It gives you access to my calendar. You can pick a time whenever you want to talk, and we can figure out how to figure out where your holes are. We'll come up with a strategic plan that calls free, where you're at in the spectrum here, and where do you need help. If you do. If you don't, great. If you do, we can talk about that. But in any case, that's the TEDcast, and we'll talk soon.